Let's talk about taper, the thing everybody loves to hate. It's going to make you completely lose your ever loving mind. So, for a marathon, it might be a 2 week taper, it might not, depending on who you are. But for a 100 miler, and even at 50 miles, unless you're very, very trained up in stacking races, a 3 week taper is a real good idea. This doesn't mean you're not doing things that are hard 2 weeks out. It means that your peak highest volume ends up with your biggest volume weekend that you're going to do for that 100 19 to 21 days out from your 100. And then from there, you start recovering. Still, 14 days out, you might do volume that seems big now. So, for example, if your insane peak volume weekend was, and I'm just going with weekends for ease of explanation, Saturday, 18 miles, and then Sunday, let's say 32. Or maybe it's 4 hours on Saturday, 4.5 hours Saturday, and then up to 8 on Sunday. I wouldn't go past 8 hours in a single run as a training activity, and I wouldn't go past 32 miles, I don't think. It could be done. The insane high level is 20 miles Saturday and 40 on Sunday. That is a very, very lot. But for folks who really, really want to do volume, going past that gets real ridiculous. You really, really don't need to do that. You're going to do so much damage that you won't recover fully for your race. And the reason I would prefer to limit it to 4 and 8 hours is that you start to push a line where you're not going to be fully recovered on race day. You're going to have gotten so used to the feeling of sore muscles that you'll think you're recovered. Come mile 50 or 60 of your race, you'll find out you could have used more recovery. So, that's the peak out. Week 2, you might still be able to do some hills on Saturday and still do, say, 20 miles on Sunday, maybe, 4 or 5 hours. That's 2 weeks out. It's not your peak volume. It's a real good idea if you get above the 2 hours of hills or something on Saturday and the 4 or 5 hours Sunday before you try to run a 100-miler. You can do it on that little training, but it's real, real risky. You're not really getting used enough to being tired. Okay, so that's our tapers coming down like that. For a shorter distance, you just shrink down the taper a little bit because you probably peak out at a little bit of lower volume, but this is mainly about hundreds. 1 week out, you'd be doing no hills. 1 week out, you pick one of the weekend days to run. Okay? And then the other weekend day, you don't. You go hike with friends, you review your race gear, you do a bunch of your hip strengthening exercises because you can do those pretty intensively up to about a week out as long as you're already used to them. Okay, so then one running day. If there's a second running day on the weekend, it better be really just slow, easy jogging. You have to not be hurting yourself 1 week out. So maybe a 2-hour run and then a hike the other day or a gentle bike ride. I've crashed a mountain bike the week before a race. Don't do that. It went okay, but it's going to be difficult because you're going to want to do a lot. Do a puzzle. Learn how to juggle. These are actually sincere suggestions. You've got to do things. If you do upper body weightlifting, you can upper body weightlift pretty heavy right out to about 8 days ahead of a race, as long as it's lifting that is familiar to you. Do not do new lifts and hurt yourself and sprain your back. But I can, for example, decide to lift heavier than I usually do, chest and shoulders, about 8 days before a race, and I will be fully recovered about 2 days before the race. Being sore across here from the upper body lifting actually helps me stay sane during taper. So this is a thing. You won't see it addressed in training plans, but keeping sane and not doing dumb shit is truly a challenge. Your body's gotten so used to being sore and to this work, and it does cause a lot of endorphins, so you're going to need to do things to compensate. The puzzles thing wasn't even a joke either. So next, the speed work. Speed work during taper. Taper means cut the volume but keep some of the intensity. So for example, when you go do your 1 hour run the weekend before, you do it at your regular long run pace. Okay? Easy. But if you do hills 2 weeks out, you still keep your same intensity, but if you've been doing, say, 14 of them, you might want to go ahead and limit yourself to just 10. Don't slow them down necessarily. If you're hurting on them at all, maybe just 8 at a very high intensity, but keeping that same intensity you're used to. You don't slow down. You cut the total volume back. So then your intervals, the week that you've got 3 weeks, so now you're down to 16, 17 days, go ahead and do regular intervals on your Tuesday, Wednesday intervals. But then when you get to the spot that's more of a week and a half out than 2.5 weeks out, You do your intervals the same as you always would, except that if you're doing 2-minute repeats, you do only 1.5 minutes, and only 8 of them, and you do them at your 2-minute pace. You do not try to kill yourself. Oh my God, so hard, so hard. But you literally are doing the intervals at your regular intensity that you would do for doing 10, and you're stopping with gas in the tank. You're pushing enough that you're holding all of your strength and all of your everything that you developed in your muscle cells. You're pushing hard enough to maintain all of that, but you're not going to gain more. Week and a half out from your race, the only thing you could possibly do is overdo speed work and hurt yourself. But you can lose a little bit of that edge if you don't do anything. So again, keep the intensity level that's normal, but cut the volume, so you continue to heal and get hurt less. Okay, so then the regular strength training, the program we're on, you do that out to 1 week ahead of your race. Maybe, no, out to 1 week ahead of your race. I can't think of anything on it. If you're having some kind of tweak, maybe focus more on an exercise that addresses that for you and cut anything that gets in the way of it in the week out. The week of your race, when you're within that 7-day window, no 6-minute legs. Leave that the heck alone when you get within 5 or 6 days of your race. You want to do them 7 days out, cool. Leave those alone. You can do a handful of lunges. You can do lunges with your eyes closed, just a few short sets. So again, you do it the way you do it during 6-minute legs, but you do maybe 30 seconds of each exercise, just 30 seconds. So it'd be like doing 3-minute legs if you want to give it a name and need some more structure to it. But you don't do it faster. You don't do it faster because it's only 30 seconds. You just stop right at the point when it usually gets hard. So again, you're keeping your normal intensity, but you're cutting your volume. You can be doing the single leg glute bridges and hip hikes and things right up to the day before race day. Drop the TheraBand unless you feel it's really helping you. Do maybe 1 set or 2 sets, or do sets of 4 instead of sets of 8 or 10. Don't do core go ahead and do that right up to 3 days before, that knee to elbow thing. Swimmers, good to do even up to the day before the race for a few. You get the feel of doing half of your normal number so that you don't get sore or tired. You're just maintaining that last week. Okay? So cut the volume back gradually, keep the intensity, peak out your highest volume week to end 19 to 21 days out from your 100. Still do good solid volume 2 weeks before. I'm going to add in another alternate Saturday activity, but as long as we're on the topic of peaking out, since it's part of taper. Another fun thing to do if you don't want to do a really long run on Saturday and then on Sunday is to run, say, 13 or 14 miles of hill repeats. I've done that. Super fun. Instead of doing for high intensity, where you run down, run up, rest, you just jog the hill over and over. Alternately, you can do a punctuated tempo run on trail. I'm going to explain that in a whole separate video very, very soon. Maybe today in a few minutes. So you do one of these things, and actually even doing a cutback version of your hard week intervals, but on Saturday in place of hills, is a real good thing to do Saturday 2 weeks out. I should probably make a separate peaking out video, but I'm not sure. It's so combined with taper. It's almost one topic. So you would, for example, go run 3 minutes hard and then walk 3 minutes, but on trail. Or do 5 minutes hard and then 5 minutes really easy for 6 reps on trail on Saturday in place of hills, just to work on leg speed 2 weeks out. And turnover and how you feel about your agility. It's a real confidence builder, even though it's a hard workout. And it still pre-tires your legs, but it's not as hard as doing a real long run. It's going to come out to less volume total. And it's not as hard on you as just the pounding of really fast hills. I know that running down the hill hard pounds the heck out of you. We've got the strength and you're building up a lot of power from that. But there's a time and a place for practicing other things, and 2 weeks out is a real good spot to do an on-trail kind of the hard week intervals instead of doing a hard week again then. All right, that's it for taper for now. Ask questions if you have them, and I will answer them. And if I need a second video to cover this in more depth, I will do it.